Thomas, let's talk just among the employees. I don't want outsiders to hear. 6 people, including me, were present at the regular meeting of the product development department. 5 of them simultaneously looked at me. In other words, I am the outsider, not considered an employee. I have endured countless slights and tried my best to keep going, but I am starting to feel it is pointless. If everyone in the current product development office thinks I am a nuisance, that is a tough pill to swallow. Understood. Please go ahead with just the employees. I left the room and stepped into the hallway. Some employees from other departments glanced back curiously, but I ignored them and left the building. I finished one last work call and went home. When I arrived, I noticed the answering machine on my landline flashing red. Astonishingly, there were nearly 100 missed calls from Thomas. I called back, and Thomas's anxious voice came through. My name is Andrew. I am 32 years old and work for a toy company called Thompson. I belong to the product development department, where we continuously develop toys that are just as attractive as existing ones. You might think it is childish for a grown man to make toys. It is true that I have always been a bit different from typical boys. Rather than running around outside, I preferred staying indoors, building plastic models. My older sister, who is 1 year my senior, owned a dress-up doll and sometimes invited me to play pretend with her. My father loved modifying motorcycles, and my mother enjoyed patchwork as a hobby. Growing up in such a family, I naturally came to love creating things. I went to art school, where I studied sculpture, and immediately after graduation, I joined Thompson. I was fortunate to be assigned to the product development department early on, which had been my goal. Thompson is one of Japan's leading toy companies, specializing in dolls and figurines. The dolls, in particular, aim to appeal not only to children, but also to the discerning eyes of adults. When I joined, Thompson was increasingly focused on toys for adults. The idea was that toys are not just for children but can also bring comfort and joy to adults. Indeed, aiming for something that resonates with adults allows for handling more luxurious products than those made for children. In line with this trend, I developed a robot-like doll called Marcy using AI, which recently won the Special Toy Award. This award is given annually to toys recognized as outstanding on a global scale. Competition was fierce, and just making it to the finals felt like an achievement. To my surprise, the judges appreciated it so much that it won the grand prize. Other members of the product development department were also aiming for the award. Winning the Special Toy Award significantly raised my salary, making me stand out among my colleagues. The award ceremony was a grand affair, and I stood at the center of the stage to receive the trophy. It was the brightest day of my life. However, as a result, I became isolated, and other members of the product development department began ignoring or harassing me. They would talk as if I were not even there, and my opinions were never considered. In the end, I had no choice but to work alone. Sometimes I wonder if it would have been better not to win the award if it meant enduring this loneliness. The manager of our product development department is Thomas. He is a 45-year-old graduate of a prestigious university, known for his innovative ideas within the company. He married a woman from the accounting department when he was 35 and is now the father of 1 child. He studied mechanical engineering in college, believing that robots would eventually become household toys, and joined Thompson. He climbed the ranks rapidly and has been the department manager for the past 2 years. He is highly dedicated to his work, often staying late without complaint. But when Thomas works overtime, it is hard for us, his subordinates, to say we want to go home early. As a result, we often end up working late as well, and the exhaustion keeps piling up. In that sense, he is not exactly a well-liked boss. That said, some employees still try to curry favor with him, hoping for personal gain. Currently, there are 6 members in the product development department, including me, but the others get along well and work cheerfully together. However, whenever I try to join their conversations, they scatter like startled spiders, leaving no one around me. The one who created that kind of atmosphere was none other than Thomas. To gain Thomas's favor, one had to behave in the way he wanted. Excluding Thomas and me, there are 4 other members in the product development department. One of them, an employee named Samuel, tries to cozy up to Thomas and constantly sees me as a rival. The other 3 seem to spend their days watching Thomas and Samuel's reactions before making a move. Samuel is an elite graduate from a prestigious national university where he studied robotics. Recognized for his abilities, he was assigned to the product development department, but he does not seem to have much passion for toys. Right after joining the company, Samuel wanted to quickly achieve results and planned to submit his own toy for the Special Toy Award. However, since I had already won the grand prize with my robot toy, his project was perceived as a mere imitation of mine, severely wounding his pride. Since then, he has constantly nitpicked my words and mocked me alongside Thomas. With a loyal follower like Samuel, Thomas's attitude toward me only grew harsher. The other 3 members would look at me apologetically, but still pretended not to notice the harassment from Samuel and Thomas. Gradually, I started dreading going to work, wondering if things could continue like this. Around that time, the executive director of Thomson, William, attended a solo exhibition by a doll artist named Charlotte Miller and was deeply impressed. Charlotte's dolls, known as Miller dolls, were highly valued and sold for large sums. William envisioned collaborating with Charlotte to create affordable Miller dolls that anyone could own. Immediately, our product development department sprang into action. It was during the usual meeting about the Miller doll project. I and the other 3 were waiting in the usual development office when Thomas and Samuel came in, chatting and laughing. Thomas greeted us with a pleasant smile and said, "Sorry to keep you waiting," as he took his seat. Samuel sat right next to him, also smiling eerily. Following their lead, I and the other 3 members took our seats and prepared to start the meeting. Then, Samuel glanced at me before turning to Thomas and made a shocking statement. "Thomas, let's talk just among the employees. I don't want outsiders to hear." At Samuel's words, the 4 of them looked at me simultaneously. At first, I did not understand, but I gradually realized what was happening. In other words, I was the outsider not considered an employee. I never intended to quit, but it was true that I had been feeling the limits of working here and had recently been researching small toy companies as potential options. Perhaps my actions were perceived as part of a job search. Still, I never expected to be treated as no longer an employee just for that. I had endured countless humiliations and tried my best, but now it all seemed utterly pointless. Even though Thomas and Samuel were leading the charge, the other 3 did nothing to defend me. It was clear I was no longer needed in this company. "Understood. Please go ahead with just the employees." I left the room and stepped into the hallway. Some employees from other departments glanced back curiously, but I ignored them and left the building. I decided to mail my resignation letter tomorrow. Surely it would be accepted without any issues. Looking up at the vast sky, I found myself lost in thought, but then remembered someone I needed to contact. I pulled out my phone, made a call, and left a voicemail saying I had quit Thomson. Feeling refreshed, I relaxed at a nearby cafe before heading to a small, single-screen theater to watch a movie, returning home late at night. When I arrived, I noticed the answering machine on my landline flashing red. Astonishingly, there were nearly 100 missed calls from Thomas. I called back, and Thomas sounded panicked. "What did you tell Charlotte?" "She just called and said she wants to cancel the collaboration." I had not badmouthed anyone to Charlotte. In the first place, the reason why Charlotte agreed to join our project was out of gratitude towards me. Who exactly is Charlotte? Charlotte is a doll artist who individually crafts porcelain dolls known as bisque dolls. The sizes vary, but even a doll about 24 inches tall can sell for nearly $10,000, and they always sell out immediately after release. She keeps her age undisclosed, and combined with her unique aura, she has gained immense popularity, especially among young women. Owning a Miller doll has become a status symbol among doll enthusiasts. Since the dolls are expensive, only a limited number of people can afford them, and most regular fans settle for enjoying photo books of her creations. The Miller dolls featured in these photo books have a divine presence, almost like statues of deities, and despite the decline in print media, the books continue to be reprinted. It was me who convinced Charlotte to move beyond just creating bisque dolls and allow the production of soft vinyl dolls. In the first place, it was I who gave William the ticket to Charlotte's solo exhibition, and I was the one who took charge of the subsequent negotiations. I met Charlotte 10 years ago, back when Miller dolls were not selling at all. During a casual visit to one of her exhibitions, I was deeply moved by her artistic vision and decided to feature Miller dolls in my graduation thesis. I met with Charlotte numerous times while working on the thesis, and we gradually formed a close bond. The finished thesis became a minor sensation at the university. My professor found it fascinating and introduced Miller dolls in various magazines, leading to a surge in popularity. Having known each other for a decade, Charlotte considers me a benefactor of Miller dolls, so she always agrees to my requests. Since I was forced to resign, it was only natural that Charlotte would withdraw from the project. I cut off Thomas's rant and hung up, ignoring any further calls. The next day, I submitted my resignation. A few days later, a woman named Nova came to my house. She had just joined Thompson after graduating from college and was outraged by the circumstances of my resignation. Actually, Thomas stole one of my ideas. If someone like him stays as the head of product development, talented people will not be able to work there. Andrew, will you fight with me? Come to think of it, the application period for this year's Special Toy Award has just begun. Thomas must be determined to win the grand prize this time, no matter what. Still, Nova impresses me with her determination despite being so young. She has a strong passion for toys and had dreamed of working at Thompson since high school. She loved dress-up dolls as a child, but her family could not afford expensive ones, leaving her with a bittersweet childhood. Her desire is to create affordable, cute dolls that all children can enjoy, regardless of their family's financial situation. That is why she was so drawn to my project of making affordable Miller dolls. All right, let's fight together. I am going to see Charlotte tomorrow. Would you like to come with me? Yes, please. I would love to hear Charlotte's thoughts as well. The next day, Nova and I visited Charlotte's workshop. Dressed in work clothes, Charlotte greeted us, wiping the sweat from her forehead. The workshop was filled with various doll parts, and I held back a comment about how the glass-eyed dolls might make some people uncomfortable. When Nova saw a genuine Miller doll, she was completely captivated. These are all incredible. Someone once described Miller dolls as Buddha statues, and I can see why. They are so majestic, almost like angel sculptures. Thank you, Nova. The inspiration for Miller dolls originally came from statues of the Virgin Mary in overseas churches. I understand. They really do resemble the Virgin Mary. Seeing them like this, they clearly go beyond the realm of ordinary toys. After giving us a tour of the workshop, Charlotte led us to the lounge. A short while later, Charlotte reappeared, now dressed in a vibrant one-piece dress instead of her work clothes. Her long black hair reached her waist, and the large, swinging earrings and bangles made her look every bit the unique artist she was. I explained to Charlotte how Nova came to find me and why she was upset. Charlotte raised her eyebrows in anger at Thomas. What a terrible man, that Thomas. To force out my benefactor just to monopolize the Miller dolls, and then to steal ideas from young talents just to win an award? Unforgivable. Thus, the three of us, Nova, Charlotte, and I formed a team to confront Thomas. By this time, news that Miller dolls would be released by Thompson had already spread across various media outlets. Thompson had even created a special page on their company website to follow the development process. However, that page was suddenly deleted, causing an uproar among Miller doll fans. Most of Charlotte's fans could not afford the original dolls, so they had been eagerly anticipating the affordable collaboration version. But Charlotte announced on her social media that her collaboration with Thompson was over. Recently, there have been sad incidents where creative works were distorted when they collaborated with major companies. Charlotte explained that she felt uneasy about releasing her creations under the Thompson name. Originally, I agreed because I was told the person who made me famous would be leading the project. But since he was let go, I do not feel comfortable working with the company. Miller Doll fans began fiercely criticizing Thompson. Within Thompson, rumors began to spread that I had been forced to resign unfairly, putting Thomas in a difficult position within the company. Moreover, Nova reported to the higher-ups that Thomas had stolen her idea. Nova's concept was a portable doll that children could carry as a comforting companion. The original size was nearly 8 inches, but it could be folded to fit into a child's small pocket. As a child, Nova had been very tearful and lonely. One day, when her mother fell ill, Nova had to stay at her aunt's house for a while. Her mother gave her a doll, saying it would take her place, and to this day, Nova cherishes that doll. During the days without her mother, Nova found great comfort in that doll. However, since it was a bit too large to carry around, she wished it could fit into her pocket, so they would always be together. Since her university days, Nova had been making prototypes, and her computer contained 3D data files with timestamps showing her progress. With solid evidence, it quickly became clear that Thomas had stolen Nova's idea. Thomas's project had already advanced to the second round of the Special Toy Award and was almost guaranteed to make the finals, but the company ordered him to withdraw. Hearing this, I was genuinely impressed by Nova's talent. If it had reached the finals, the rest would have depended on the judges' preferences, but the chances of winning the grand prize were high. It's a shame we can't resubmit it as your project. I wasn't aiming for the award itself, so it's fine. More importantly, the project has gained attention within the company, and discussions about commercialization have started. That makes me happier. That must be the affordable doll you have always wanted to make for children, right? Nova nodded happily. I remembered the joy I felt when my own project was first accepted and made into a product. Ultimately, our work is all about bringing smiles to children's faces. There aren't many jobs as fulfilling as this. Gradually, I began to regret quitting the company. Charlotte, noticing my hesitation, invited me to work at her workshop. Andrew, your modeling skills are truly remarkable. I've been creating Miller dolls entirely on my own, but doing it alone inevitably leads to biases. I would love for you to support me. That is a wonderful offer. But wouldn't it be problematic for someone other than you to be involved in making Miller dolls? Of course, if it was just tasks like polishing parts or removing excess material, as her apprentices did, it would be fine. However, Charlotte wanted me to become a sculptor and craft the dolls' faces from scratch. Her dolls have always portrayed young girls, but she expressed a desire to try making boy dolls as well. She admitted that while she excels at creating female faces, sculpting boyish features is quite challenging for her. She hoped I could fill that gap. Though I was deeply drawn to her offer, I still couldn't make up my mind. If Miller dolls were to include boy versions, it would surely cause a sensation. Becoming the sculptor for such a project would likely bring substantial financial rewards. After all, Miller dolls are incredibly valuable, with a recent piece selling for $30,000. However, such expensive dolls could never become toys for children. They are not toys, but rather works of art. But what I want to create are toys that bring joy to children when they hold them. I truly appreciate your offer, but that would move me closer to the realm of being an artist. I still want to focus on making toys that children can enjoy. In the end, Charlotte understood, and we agreed that if I returned to the toy industry, we would work together to make affordable Miller dolls. The gravity of stealing someone's idea caught up with Thomas, and he was fired from the company. Samuel, who had aligned himself with Thomas, lost his standing and eventually resigned. With this, Thompson finally regained its welcoming and positive atmosphere from before. Furthermore, Mr. Thompson, the company president, personally visited my house and bowed his head, asking me to return to the company. I promise you the position of head of the product development department. If it's you, I am sure you can make the Miller doll project a success. Does this mean we can continue with the Miller doll project? I heard that it was halted and the plan scrapped. The board of directors has approved restarting it with you leading the effort. After hearing Mr. Thompson's words, I decided to return to Thompson. The employees warmly welcomed me back. The three who had ignored me on the day I resigned had since been relegated to less important positions. Their guilt might have been lighter than Thomas and Samuel's, but I could no longer see myself working alongside them. Thus, the newly reformed product development department was established, consisting of 6 dedicated members, including myself as the department head. In the newly reformed product development department, Nova was also there. We worked tirelessly, day and night, aiming to complete the long-stalled Miller doll project. To make Miller dolls affordable, we had to start by reconsidering the materials. Generally, mass-produced dress-up dolls are made from soft vinyl, with the hair rooted directly into the doll's head. On the other hand, Miller dolls are made from fragile bisque material, and their wigs are created separately and attached later. For dolls meant for adults to admire, wigs can work. But kids take their dolls into the bath or cut their hair for fun. I can't compromise on rooted hair, Nova insisted. The glass eyes, another hallmark of Miller dolls, were beautiful but expensive and could make the dolls look creepy if done wrong. In the end, we decided to use soft vinyl with rooted hair and paint the eyes, allowing for mass production. After countless efforts, the Miller dolls were finally released by Thompson. Pre-orders poured in even before the official release, and we were thrilled with the overwhelming response. Encouraged by Mr. Thompson, we submitted the dolls for the Special Toy Award and proudly won the grand prize. At the award ceremony, Charlotte, Nova, and I stood alongside the Miller doll, surrounded by flashing cameras. Our passion for toys was conveyed to many people through the media coverage. If one day, among the girls who play with our Miller dolls, some grow up to become creators themselves, nothing would make us happier. On the other hand, Thomas, who had left the company, remained unchanged. Given his experience as a department head at a major company like Thompson, he managed to land a job at another toy company. Yet, his habit of copying persisted. Perhaps he thought that imitating something unknown in Japan would go unnoticed, so he released a doll resembling a beloved Indian animated character. However, in this age of the internet, such a mindset was incredibly naive. An Indian animation company filed a lawsuit almost immediately, and the doll was pulled from the market shortly after its release. With his credibility shattered, Thomas was fired from the new company and struggled to find another job. Now tainted with a reputation as an unethical creator, Thomas found himself pushed to the fringes of society. He began modifying mass-produced anime figurines and selling them on online marketplaces to make ends meet. Despite skillfully navigating copyright issues, his income remained unstable. Eventually, things took a turn for the worse. He continued posting his modified figurines online, but complaints from fans of the original works flooded in, leading to his account being banned. He then moved to a more underground platform, but his creations grew repetitive and dull, causing his sales to plummet. To make matters worse, the parents of his son's classmates discovered that Thomas was modifying existing figurines for adult male use. His son was mocked at school for having a father who sells weird dolls, and, devastated, he stopped going to school, prompting Thomas's angry wife to take their son and leave the house, soon sending him the divorce papers. Left alone, Thomas was burdened with child support and alimony. Selling the house was not enough, and his savings were all claimed by his wife. Unable to find a stable job, he resorted to selling his personal belongings online, but life grew increasingly difficult. With no furniture or appliances left, Thomas moved into a small apartment, surviving on daily manual labor jobs. Meanwhile, I was thriving as the head of the product development department after returning to Thompson. Imagining the smiles of children while working made every day genuinely enjoyable. My team respected me wholeheartedly, and we all shared the same passion for our work. Many of my colleagues still cherish the sense of wonder they felt when playing with toys as children, and as their leader, I encourage them to keep that spirit alive. Every day, I felt grateful for the strong bonds I had formed with my team. Nova, a highly capable subordinate, often supported me by addressing issues I had not noticed. I was sure that Nova would one day shape the future of our company. The value of Charlotte's Miller dolls continued to rise. With the collaboration doll released through Thomson, even those who had never heard of Miller dolls became aware of their existence. Some wealthy collectors, anticipating their value to increase, were seriously considering purchasing them. The long-delayed creation of boy dolls was finally progressing, and soon an exhibition would be held at an art museum. It felt profound to see Miller dolls entering the world of fine art. Working with us had also inspired Charlotte to explore more durable and child-friendly materials. Her main collaborator in this new direction was Nova, and the two had grown quite close both personally and professionally. I was confident that in a few years, a doll jointly developed by Nova and Charlotte would be entered into the Special Toy Award, surely claiming the grand prize.